Take a minute, greet each other, and we'll be right back. It's number 3. There we go. Hey, you guys are in for a treat tonight. Besides the worship you just had, the 5-string worship. But you're in for a treat because we have a special speaker tonight. Your speaker tonight is a future conference speaker. She's a future leader of the church, leader of Chi Alpha. She's a future leader and a current leader. So give it up, get your notepads out, get your Bibles out or your devices out, and get ready. Put your seatbelts on and get ready. Bethany Carter. Woo!
Thank you for that. All right. Hi, guys. Good to be back up here. Yes. So Nicole preached a couple weeks ago about kingdom culture. That was awesome. She was talking about how we need to transition from our American culture of independence to kingdom culture of dependence on God. And I love this idea of kingdom culture. It's one of my favorite things to study, and how we can live countercultural to the environment around us. So I want to focus on the idea of rest today. And so I know that it's halfway through the semester, midterm season, and you're probably thinking I'm crazy for talking about rest right now, but this is a time that we need it the most, right? Rest is a very important Christian practice that has been lost not only in American culture, but also in the church. A.J. Sobata writes this: "The Sabbath has largely been forgotten by the church, which has uncritically mimicked the rhythms of the industrial and success-obsessed West. The result? Our road-weary, exhausted churches have largely failed to integrate Sabbath into their lives as vital elements of Christian discipleship. It is not as though we do not love God. We love God deeply. We just do not know how to sit with God anymore. We have become perhaps the most emotionally exhausted, psychologically overworked, spiritually malnourished people in history." Ouch. But my friends, this is not the way of Jesus. Jesus says in Matthew 11:28-30, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I also really like the Message version. "Are you tired, worn out, burnt out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." How powerful of a statement in a culture like ours. So I started becoming passionate about the topic of rest before COVID hit. I feel like I was very overloaded with a lot of things. I look back on my camera roll from 2019 and it makes me tired just to look at it. All the things that I was doing. So one blessing from the pandemic was that it forced me into a Sabbath, and it forced me to get out of overworking myself. But now as the world is coming back to life and the opportunities around me seem endless again, and with an even stronger attachment to our screens, I really felt like God wanted me to share this message tonight. So I don't know about you, but I want to live this kind of life that Jesus is calling us to live freely and lightly. And how do we do it? Get close to Jesus, follow in his footsteps, but also realize this: Jesus didn't do it all. He didn't meet every need. He left people waiting in line to be healed. He left one town to preach to another. He hid away to pray. He got tired. He never interacted with the vast majority of people on the planet. He spent 30 years in training and only 3 years in ministry. He did not try to do it all, and yet he did everything God asked him to do. So what is God asking you to do? What has God made you to do? Strip your lives of all the things that too often get in the way of this. So my calling is a campus missionary. So I don't have to be a campus missionary while also having a successful YouTube channel with thousands of followers, because I spend hours making these cool travel vlogs and exhausting myself to create this version of myself on Instagram and picking up another hobby there and another hobby there. But it's simple. God has called me to live my life like he did and to make disciples of all nations. So I feel like this season I'm really trying to strip my life of everything that's not part of that calling. So this is October, and usually I would be coming up with extravagant costumes with my sister, and we would be winning first place at every costume contest. But I didn't do that this year because I really wanted to pour into my small group and just Chi Alpha. And so I'm stripping my life of things that become distractions for me. At the end of my life, when I come face to face with Jesus, I want him to tell me, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Not to be disappointed and just say, "You missed it. You were too distracted in things that don't matter." How disappointing would that be? So this idea also compares to the idea of FOMO, fear of missing out. So FOMO is defined as anxiety stemming from the belief that others might be having fun while one is not present. FOMO is associated with a fear of regret, which may lead to concerns that one might miss an opportunity for social interaction, a novel experience, a memorable event, or a profitable investment. But Jesus didn't have FOMO. Jesus didn't have FOMO because FOMO is rooted in fear and anxiety, and that is not from God. God is peace. It's his character, so no fear can be found in God. Therefore, fear is of the enemy. It's of Satan. FOMO is rooted in restlessness, which again is of Satan because God is restful. In Job, we see that when Satan, he comes to talk to God, he was in a restless state. Job 1, 6-7. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." And it's not only Satan, but evil spirits as well. In Matthew 12:43, it says, "When an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it." Now that's a stark contrast to what Jesus is telling us, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And the cool thing about God's character is it's the same from the Old Testament to the New Testament. He doesn't change. So even in the Old Testament, God promises us rest. In Exodus, Moses was in the desert with the Israelites, and he's having a conversation with God. And it goes like this: "If you are pleased with me, teach me your ways so that I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people." The Lord replied, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." So when we talk about rest, God not only models this for us, but he also commands us to do it through the Sabbath. So number one is God models and commands rest. So Sabbath comes from the Hebrew word Shabbat, which literally means to stop. Now, that is something completely foreign to our culture. We have no space to ever come to a complete stop. Even if you're at a stop sign, to properly stop for 3 seconds means you're going to get honked at. My friend Hussein, we've been honked at before because I told him to stop for 3 seconds. So everything in our culture is telling us we need all of your attention all the time and to keep going faster. So to understand this concept of stopping, we need to go back to the beginning in Genesis. Genesis 2:1-3 says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. On the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done." So God blesses and makes the Sabbath day holy. In creation, he only blesses 3 things: living creatures, humans, and a day. So what is he calling holy? He didn't build a temple or a shrine and call that holy, but he made the 7th day and he called that holy, a period of time. For 6 days we work, we create, we contribute, but on the Sabbath we savor in the world of time. We slow down, we take a deep breath, and we drink it all in. God made the heavens and the earth and everything in that within 6 days, and he rested. God rested not because he was burnt out, not because he just finished his biggest group project and was just like, man, I need a break. But he wanted to look back on all he did and delight in the work. After God modeled rest in the creation story, there were 2 places in particular that he gave the commandment for Sabbath. The original was on Mount Sinai with the first reveal of the 10 Commandments, and the second was in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy meaning second law, where the commandments are repeated by Moses to a new generation. So I'm going to go over the command out of Deuteronomy because it has a slight difference in the first. "Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all of your work, but on the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your ox, your donkey, or any of your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns, so that your male and female servants may rest, as you do." This is the addition in Deuteronomy. "Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day." So out of the whole 10 commandments, this is the longest and most detailed one. The end of this command is different than the first command because God wanted them to resist the culture of Egypt. Do you remember what happened in Egypt? Pharaoh was power hungry. He worked the slaves around the clock so that the Egyptians could have more. They built more, grew more, stored more. They had enough, but they were never satisfied. Sound familiar? But this isn't only an American problem. Even in China, companies adopted what's called the 996 work schedule, meaning employees were expected to work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. One study said that 996 was likened to modern-day slavery. Many workers would even take sleeping bags into the office. This was the norm until August of this year when it was finally deemed illegal because several deaths were linked to 996. John Mark Comer says this: It's not just Pharaoh's ghost haunting our world. His economic system is still thriving. We don't call it Egypt anymore. We call it capitalism or free trade or consumerism, Black Friday, or 0.7% financing, and it's ubiquitous. You can't drive down the road or stand in the grocery store line or open your computer without Egypt screaming at you, get more, own more, have more. Who cares where it comes from? Who cares what it costs those below you? You work hard, you deserve it. You don't have enough. Sabbath is a way of breaking the addictive pattern of accomplish more, accumulate more, repeat. It's an act of defiance and rebellion against the endless, restless grind of workaholism and consumerism. Sabbath is a way to say enough. Well, some may think that, well, this is a lot of Old Testament stuff. Aren't we supposed to follow the new covenant of Jesus? Everything that Jesus establishes is out of a foundation of the old. But let's see what Jesus says too. Mark 2:27 says, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath." So this comes right after some religious leaders are very upset that Jesus and his followers are eating grain in the field, which would have been unlawful to do during the Sabbath. But like all of these religious leaders, they just completely missed it. They cared more about tradition than the heart of God. So first century listeners needed to hear the second half of this statement. But we, as 21st century young adults, need to hear the first. The Sabbath was made for man. We aren't legalistic about the Sabbath because we barely even know what Sabbath is. So I would love to give you some practical tips on how we can Sabbath. But before I do, my second point is something we need to address if we're ever going to thrive while resting. And so point number 2, our glowing screens, our glowing distractions. So now you may be thinking that rest sounds pretty cool. You can agree with me that God not only modeled it, but he commanded it for us. But there's a little thing in your hand or in your pocket right now that is screaming, pay attention to me, look at me, touch me, and don't pay attention to her. And if there's anyone here that is qualified to get a pass from this point, it could be me. I studied many forms of media. I majored in photography, minored in advertising. So that means long hours on computer editing different things and structuring things to appeal to audiences. I oversee media here at Chi Alpha, but aside from professionally, I also really enjoy it. Like, I love my photo and video work, and I own many smart products at home. We have a ton of Alexas. Like, I love them. I love technology. I'm not the kind of person who's like scared that robots are going to take over. Like, I welcome it into my life. I'm like, yes, new technology. So, yes. The key is to put technology in its proper channel, because if we don't, it is something that is so easy to enslave you. We need to see technology as it is. It is a tool. We are the most distracted generation in human history. We're losing our capacity to pay attention. Continued partial attention is now our default setting. So our attention span is dropping. There was some research in 2000, so that was a long time ago. It was only 12 seconds. Now that's pretty bad. But there's a new stat that has come out that the attention span now is 8 seconds. And that's even worse, but it gets even worse because a goldfish's attention span is 9 seconds. So that's really bad. The research also shows that the average iPhone user touches their phone over 2,617 times a day. What do you give your attention to? Ironically, your cell phone can tell you an honest answer every Sunday morning when you're driving to church, about to have a good day to worship Jesus, and it just pops up with this ugly stat about how much time you've given to this device. How great is your daily screen time? Is it more than your abiding time with Jesus? It's a goal of mine not to let my screen time be higher than my abiding time. Technology, I believe, is the main hindrance of rest today. Why? Another recent Microsoft survey found that 77% of people answered yes to when nothing else is occupying their time will reach for their phones. And I know we have all been in that situation when we're simply waiting in line or early to a class with nothing to do, and everyone around you is on their phone. And so it's just a little too uncomfortable for you to just sit there and look at the wall. So you pull out your phone, even though you have nothing to do on it. The scrolling begins. Downtime has been completely eliminated from our culture today. This is from a secular artist, Joshua Fields Milburn. Downtime is a misnomer. We used to have precious interstitial zones in which we could find momentary solace. Airports, checkout lines, waiting rooms, and other transient sanctuaries in which we could bask in reverie. No longer is this the case. Now everyone seems to be on their phones during these fleeting moments. They are attempting to be more productive or interactive, but perhaps stopping and thinking is far more productive than fiddling with our phones. Or from a Christian perspective, not only stopping and thinking, but also praying. Imagine the amount of time we could give to praying instead of scrolling. Sabbath is a time to break away from our glowing distractions, to sit with ourselves and with God. It's okay if this sounds challenging. Rest doesn't just happen, it's a spiritual practice. And if you don't intentionally make the effort to break away from distraction, distraction will never let you go. So how do we do this? Point number 3, how to rest. So this is the question right here. Do you trust God enough to Sabbath, to stop for a whole day? When you get to this point, the idea of resting will become a whole lot easier, I promise. God is in control and I'm not. He is the one who holds everything together. So like many of God's principles, it requires trust. For example, with money, we tend to save all that we can because we don't trust that God will provide for us later. Is the same as using our time the way we need to, the way we want to, because we don't trust God with our time. Do you have space for a day where you can just sit back and remember all that you've done in the past 6 days and delight in it? This is a time of celebration and reflection, not to worry about the upcoming 6 days ahead. So where can you find this space in your schedule? It doesn't have to be on the weekend. I know college is crazy, so you may have a job or a weekend commitment. Do you have a midweek break? If you have absolutely no space for a full day in this season, consider starting with a half a day. But remember that the Sabbath doesn't just happen. You will have to fight for your time to rest. So the Jews have a day that is dedicated to preparing for a time of rest. It's called Preparation Day, which is just ironic because you kind of have to work a little bit extra hard to rest really well, but it's definitely worth it. So all day Friday, they will, before sunset, they'll be busy getting stuff ready for the Sabbath. You also see this example with the Israelites in the Old Testament in Exodus. When they were wandering in the desert, God was miraculously providing manna for them. It goes like this. Each morning, everyone gathered as much as they needed. And when the sun grew hot, it melted away. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much, 2 omers for each person. And the leaders of the community came and reported this to Moses. He said to them, "This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow is to be a day of Sabbath rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. So bake what you need to bake and boil what you want to boil. Save whatever is left and keep it until morning." So they saved it until morning, as Moses commanded, and it did not stink or get maggots in it. "Eat it today," Moses said, "because today is the Sabbath to the Lord. You will not find any of it on the ground today. 6 days you are to gather, but on the 7th day, the Sabbath, there will not be any." So what God is saying, all of these different commands that God gives, it's not to hinder us. It's not just to put weird rules into our lives for no reason, but they're there to help us. And so God designs us. He knows what we need. The world tries to distract us into thinking that 24-hour stores and 24-hour access is actually helpful, but we were not designed to live without limits. So consider this day of preparation. I will think in the beginning of my week what I would like to do with my Sabbath and how I can get ready for it. It becomes something that you can look forward to, and you can work harder knowing that you have a break approaching. So Richie and I are big foodies, so that's the first thing that I always prepare is what are we going to have to eat? What kind of meals are we going to have? And we go to the grocery store the day before and pick up our stuff. I even prepare my work for a couple days after my Sabbath so that my work is not a source of stress. I put it away. I don't look at it. I don't even think about it. And most of my Sabbaths, I plan not to use my phone at all by turning it off and even putting it into a drawer. Crazy, right? Your phone does have an off button. It's on the side, and if you push it long enough, it will die. It's a humbling feeling to realize that the world goes on just fine without you for 24 hours. And it's also a great way to break off the restlessness of FOMO. So all of this is great, but it is not easy. Friends will come to you with good intentions to invite you to do something that you had not planned to do on your Sabbath, usually the day before. A text will pop up on your phone about a huge blowout sale from your favorite store, one day only. An event you didn't plan on attending suddenly presents itself to you as if it were begging you to go. Don't give in. It's okay to protect your time to rest. When our greatest commandment is to love God and to love others, 80% of loving well is being emotionally healthy and spiritually awake. I've tried pushing through. I've given up my precious Sabbath and gone out with a friend and made it to the sale and made it to the event, and it left me drained for the whole next week. But when I'm well rested, I can love the people around me with way more capacity. So here's a simple question to answer when considering, what should I do on this Sabbath of mine now that I've made the time? This is the question. What will make me combust with joy? What will make you combust with joy? I know for me, sleeping makes me combust with joy. Like, honestly, that's one of my favorite hobbies is just sleep, wake up, have some good brunch, and go back for a nap. That is great. And I know that I don't have to go anywhere or talk to anybody, and I'm completely unplugged. It's amazing. My campus pastor at NC State also gave us a good saying for remembering what to do on our Sabbath. Pray and play. So worship God and spend all the time that you want in your daily devotional time. You're in no hurry. Then play, as in do what brings you joy again. Remember that get to know you question. Maybe you've done it as an icebreaker in your small groups. What's your perfect day? The amazing thing is that Jesus calls us to have our perfect day every week with the Sabbath. It's amazing. Another question, what is life-giving to me? So the Pharisees had a problem with Jesus because he was feasting and healing, while they had put way too many rules on what was rest and what was work. So what about for us? What about running? What about cooking? What about driving? Is it work or is it rest? Some people think that running would be life-giving. Other people think that would not be life-giving. So it's up to you. I personally don't like to cook. I cook for survival, not for fun. But some people really enjoy cooking. So you go out and you bake all you want. You enjoy all the pumpkin dishes you can right now. Go for it. What will make you combust with joy? So this practice will not only change one day of the week for you, but it will change all 7 days. Give God a chance. Give him a day and see how he will bring rest to your souls. So with that, I'm going to have some small group questions, and we're just going to discuss this in our small groups, and I'll come back up to close. Thanks.